Had sleep paralysis for the first time, and I don't think I will ever sleep again. You guys that have sleep paralysis, that's what you guys were talking about. I didn't know it was that serious. So I wake up and there's this thing standing at the edge of my bed staring at me. Like this, staring at me. Wingspan. So naturally I started to panic. Obviously, as a man of honour, my first instinct when I see some fuckery is to run first, ask questions later. But my legs weren't moving. So I begin to accept my fate as I've realised this is where my life ends. And I'm like, no, wait, I have things to do and people to outlive. So I tried to run again. But now I suddenly have control of my body again. So I'm just kicking in the bed. Like, you know when you're fighting your siblings and you do the kicking technique that always wins? That was me. So I start kicking and the image of whatever was at the end of my bed just slowly fades away. In my mind, that felt like a really long experience. But in actuality, I'm sure it was about 15 seconds. But I'm never sleeping again.
If you don't suffer with sleep paralysis, consider yourself insanely lucky. So last night, I went to bed as normal. I had a really cool dream, and then I woke up at about 1 a.m. because I could hear someone faintly calling my name. I looked at the clock, and I was like, why is someone calling my name at this time? I got up, out of bed, went to the door, opened the curtain, looked at the bottom of the driveway, and I saw someone standing with a hood over their face. But then they started calling out to me, and they're like, it's just Haley, can I come in? Which is my friend. And all I could muster up in this half-sleep state was, I'm too tired, I'm going back to sleep. And then I turned around, I went back to bed. I had another cool dream, and then what felt like about 30 minutes later, I woke back up to see that someone was sleeping next to me. And then I realized that we are actually holding hands, and I can see their body and I can feel their breathing, and I assume that it's my friend that was standing at the bottom of the driveway and she's just let herself in and crashed on my bed. So I go back to sleep. I fall back asleep, I fall back into my dream, and then what feels like about 30 minutes later, I wake back up because I can feel my body moving. And when I open my eyes, I'm still holding hands with this person, but my hand is now in the air, and all I can see is a hooded man dragging me across my bed. I look around the room, I can see everything is normal, I can see the clock next to me, I can see my phone on the bed, but I can't move, I can't scream. I'm not in a dream state while this is happening. My eyes are open and I am aware of my surroundings, but I can't do anything. It feels like my body is tied up with ropes. I can hear his heavy breathing. I can feel the warmth of his skin. I can feel the sweat dripping down my back with fear, but I can't do anything. Finally, I fight my way out of this state, but my sleep paralysis has gotten so bad that it will literally disguise itself as my friends to build trust. And once it has your hand locked or once it's got itself over you, you are completely out of control of your own body. Sounds literally insane, like I can't be telling the truth, but if you've ever experienced this, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, I pray that you never do. It's also not like a dream in the sense that you wake up and the memories sort of start to fade. No, you remember everything that happened to you clear as day, just like it was any other memory. They reckon there's some sort of scientific explanation for this, but I don't buy it. If you've ever experienced it, you know that this feels like something bigger. Why are we all seeing the same thing? Why are we all experiencing the same thing? I don't know what's going on, but it is terrifying.
Hi, I'm Ash. I'm a social scientist and I make videos about sociological topics and sometimes I make vlogs. In this video, we're going to be talking about the dark side of sleep paralysis. Quick content warning before we get started in this video. This video talks about things related to sleep paralysis and mental health. If that's not your thing, feel free to click away. And if you are experiencing any of these things, I encourage you to get help from a professional. I am not a mental health expert nor a psychologist. Okay, so you may have noticed I'm in a different room than my bedroom. So this is the spare room and I am really starting to hate the color of this bed. This is our guest room and I'm down here today because Luke had today off and he's upstairs doing some cooking and chilling out with Benji. I haven't got the lighting quite right and you're just gonna have to ignore the desk because otherwise I'll have to rearrange the whole room and we don't have time for that. But when I post this video, we are probably somewhere in New Zealand because we're spending 2 weeks. So from the 12th of November to the 26th of November, Luke and I will be in New Zealand to see my family. But yeah, the dark side of sleep paralysis. So I have my blog here as always, and hopefully I get better at like reading from my like script and looking at the camera more, if that makes sense. I don't know what the word for that is called, but because I'm downstairs, I'm more likely to look outside and see what's going on. So let me get back to it. The dark side of sleep paralysis, where science meets supernatural. Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night, your eyes wide open, but your body is frozen in place. Shadows loom over you. Whispering voices fill the air, and a heavy presence sits in your chest. You try to scream, but nothing comes out. It feels as though you're trapped between worlds, half awake, half dreaming, and entirely powerless. This eerie scenario is not the plot of a horror film, but a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis. A mysterious and unsettling state that has fascinated and terrified people for centuries. So what exactly is sleep paralysis? Is it a mere glitch in our sleep cycle, or is there something more supernatural at play? Let's dive into the science and the myths to understand the dark side of sleep paralysis, where science meets the supernatural. So sleep paralysis is a phenomenon that occurs when a person is transitioning between sleep stages, typically during the process of falling asleep or waking up. So during REM, rapid eye movement sleep, the brain is highly active, which is a phase where vivid dreams take place. In order to prevent individuals from physically acting out these dreams, the brain induces a state of bodily paralysis known as muscle atonia. Ordinarily, this paralysis dissipates upon waking up. However, in cases of sleep paralysis, the body remains immobilized while the mind is alert and frozen in time. Individuals who experience sleep paralysis often describe a state of consciousness coupled with an inability to move, speak, or react. This state is sometimes accompanied by sounds such as humming, buzzing, or zapping, according to Thorpe 2012. Sleep paralysis can persist for a few seconds to several minutes, and although it is generally harmless, the encounter can be profoundly disturbing, particularly when accompanied by hallucinations. So now that we've got an introduction to what sleep paralysis is, let's talk about using science to explain sleep paralysis. So it can be explained as a type of disconnect between the brain and the body that occurs during REM sleep. There are many triggers or risk factors that can lead to sleep paralysis occurring, such as irregular sleep patterns, jet lag, stress, and some types of medications. It is important to note that these are not always the direct causation. They could just be contributing factors. So correlation doesn't equal causation, and causation doesn't equal correlation. One study by Denis, French, and Gregory in 2018 explored a systematic review of sleep paralysis literature, and they found that the most common risk factors associated with a person experiencing sleep paralysis were stress and trauma, substance abuse, physical illness, some personality factors, genetic influences, and sleep disorders. They also found sleep paralysis to be most prevalent in people who suffered from PTSD and anxiety disorders such as panic disorders. And according to Stefani and Hogel 2021, at least 40% of people have experienced an isolated sleep paralysis event. And I think I've had it once, and it's pretty scary, but I think my body knew what was happening. But I do know a lot of people who have experienced it. Like, I think Luke's had it a few times. I have a friend back in New Zealand who has experienced sleep paralysis a lot, and some of the stuff was downright terrifying. When sleep paralysis does occur, the person's brain is still in a dreamlike state because of REM, rapid eye movement. And the result is either, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this word, hypnagogic or jogic, so that means while falling asleep, or hypnopompic, so that's while waking up. Hallucinations. So the hallucinations can be extremely frightening as they frequently mirror the person's worries or apprehensions. Individuals may perceive dark silhouettes, experience heavy pressure on their chest, or detect a sinister presence in close proximity. It's like their most dreadful dreams are infiltrating reality and they can't escape from it. Despite these terrifying symptoms, sleep paralysis isn't seen as dangerous to most people. The body will eventually snap out of the paralysis and there isn't any long-term damage. But that's not for everyone, and this doesn't explain why the experience feels so disturbing or why so many people associate it with supernatural occurrences. So, why do we see the supernatural during sleep paralysis? Many individuals frequently report encountering sinister shadowy beings during episodes of sleep paralysis. This phenomenon can be attributed to how our brain reacts to fear and uncertainty, according to Jalal 2021. Upon awakening in a state of paralysis, the body is in a heightened state of alert and panic. As the brain grapples with the inability to move the body and comprehend the situation, it attempts to rationalize the experience by perceiving it as a threat. Brains are so cool, aren't they? That's just a side note. During such a disoriented state, the brain often generates familiar images of peril, many of which are related to social anxieties. I still don't have the camera in a great spot. Anyways, these social anxieties could be demons, specters, intruders. These entities seem tangible because the mind merges reality with dreamlike visions. The sensation of pressure on the chest, a common occurrence in sleep paralysis, may be interpreted as a malevolent being perched upon you or a malevolent spirit attempting to cause harm. So that's kind of like the basic reason why many people associate it with the supernatural, but sometimes I wonder, is there a deeper meaning to sleep paralysis? Like, is it like a world colliding with another world or an alternate reality? Just some questions to think. Can sleep paralysis be prevented? And again, just quick disclaimer, I'm not a sleep expert, I'm not a mental health professional, I am just me, I am a sociologist, so this is from my research, and you can find all of this on the internet as well. There isn't a 100% sure proof way of preventing sleep paralysis, but there are some general steps you can take to help prevent it or decrease the risk of it happening to you. So these are maintaining a regular sleep schedule, having good sleep hygiene, which means going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. I would also suggest limiting screen time before bed, something I'm not very good at myself, and giving yourself a complete bedtime routine. According to Raf et al. 2023, sometimes even changing sleeping positions can help, although I did watch a few TikToks about people explaining sleep paralysis and that the position of where they're sleeping didn't help. Reducing stress, and I know it's not always easy to reduce stress. I can't talk here, but the higher stress level someone has, the higher chances of experiencing sleep paralysis. Some ways to cope could be using a mindfulness activity before bed, such as yoga or a guided meditation. Creating a relaxing environment for sleep, for example, a cool, dark and quiet room can really help minimize the risk of sleep paralysis, as it can improve sleep quality and reduce the chances of REM being disrupted during your sleep. Limit things like caffeine and alcohol, especially close to bedtime, as they can often interfere with sleep. And other things that might help could be CBT, regular exercise that isn't too close to bedtime, sleeping on your side, staying aware of side effects of your medication, and breathing exercises. And the last thing I want to talk about for this video is science meets superstition, bridging the gap between the two. Sleep paralysis exists at the crossroads of science and superstition, a phenomenon that can be rationalized through our knowledge of REM sleep, yet retains a strong connection to the mystical. Throughout history, individuals have been tormented by the hallucinations it triggers, and although we now possess scientific interpretations, the profound effect of these supernatural encounters cannot be dismissed. This could be the real essence of sleep paralysis. It compels us to face our deepest fears, blurring the boundaries between reality and the fantastical, a nod to hyperreality. Whether you view it as a mere brain glitch or something more omnious, one thing remains certain: sleep paralysis provides a rare peek into the enigmatic and shadowy recesses of the mind where science and the supernatural converge. Therefore, the next time you find yourself immobilized in bed with shadows encroaching closer, remember it might simply be your brain at work, or perhaps something entirely different.
Never fall asleep on your back, because last night I was laying in bed, but I just could not fall asleep for some reason. And I always fall asleep on my side, but tonight it was super uncomfortable. So I decided to go on my back, and within 5 minutes of doing that, I fell asleep. Sounds great, right? Well, the only issue was that I woke up in the middle of the night, so I was like, oh, might as well go to the bathroom. So I tried to get up, but I couldn't move my body. At first I thought I was just dreaming or something, but then I realized I was fully conscious. And then all of a sudden, I see a dark figure in the corner of my room, and it kept getting closer to me and closer to me. So I was terrified because I couldn't move or run away, but then the dark figure walked out of my eyesight, so I couldn't see it anymore, until randomly, it pops up right in front of my face. At this point, my heart was racing, but then I started to hear whispering, and I was like, where is this coming from? But for some reason, whenever someone whispers in my ear, it makes me super ticklish. So when this happened, I started to wiggle my toes, and I realized I could move again, and then I woke up. So I don't know if I was dreaming or if I wasn't, but it felt super real. All I know is that this never happened until the one night I sleep on my back, so I'm never doing that again. Also, I may or may not have wet the bed.
And I'll either post some TikTok stories at the start or at the end, so make sure you check those out. But thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Ash, I'm a social scientist, and I aim to keep bringing you content and vlogs and things like that. So don't forget to like the video, it helps out my channel because it's a very small channel, and subscribe if you want to see more content, and I'll see you next time.